It's an absolutely beautiful game. I've said it many times before, but Star Citizen easily has the most impressive environmental areas in, well, any space game, full stop. There's no denying it, and in my mind, no question whatsoever. And yes, it's true, there's still a lot of ongoing work needed to bring the gameplay up to the high standard of these stunning areas. They still, nonetheless, are extremely impressive to fly around and explore, and it's an activity I frequently do. In this video then, I'm going to talk about some of these amazing planets, their history, and what it might mean for the future of the game. And in doing so, I'm also going to highlight the high level of immersion, increased immersion that is, with the Tobii Eye Tracker 5. Now, Tobii Eye Trackers are something I've been using since 2016. In fact, if you go all the way back to my early Elite Dangerous videos, you'll see that many of them were recorded with the Tobii Eye Trackers. So yeah, these are devices that I've used for a long time at this point, almost daily in fact, which is why I was very happy to team up with Tobii for sponsoring this video, so my thanks to them for that. Do check out the links in the video description where you can find out everything you need to know, which by the way also has a very nice 15% discount on the Tobii Eye Tracker 5. Additionally, check the other link there because there is an active sweepstake being conducted by Tobii to celebrate their SimFest 2025. Now, as you've seen in other videos I've talked about with both Star Citizen and the Eye Tracker, you can use it for combat. It has a lot of advantages for that, both in terms of really improving the general feel and flow of combat, but also with general situational awareness in combat. Additionally, it's a great boon when it comes to missions pretty much of all types, whether that's doing some of the more involved missions or even just simple delivery missions. There's just something about the extra level of detail and immersion that the head tracking really does bring. So I focus on those activities before, and I highly recommend the Eye Tracker for those type of activities. Today though, I really want to focus on exploring the various different planets, just looking around these beautiful environments. It's something I do in most games. In fact, it's a huge callback to my early Elite videos. You may remember those if you've been watching the channel for long enough. So you can see here, I'm just about to leave Teasa Spaceport. It's actually made some quite substantial changes visually over the years. The spaceport is located in the city of Lorville, which you can see right here. It's on the planet of Hurston, and Hurston itself was purchased by Hurston Dynamics. It seems they probably named the planet after their own company. The planet, its actual physical location, its original name is Stanton 1, so the first planet in orbit around the Sun in the Stanton system. On the system map here, we can see, well, a whole bunch of locations that we can actually go to on the planet, and we're going to just choose one at random, actually the nearest one, at Pinewood, and we're going to go have a little bit of exploration around there. Now, the interesting history about this particular planet is that the Hurston family essentially wanted to use it as a resource extraction platform, just taking as many resources away from it as possible. And that meant they left kind of ignored potential development here for large-scale family estates. So instead of making it an area with potential luxury, they essentially have turned it into an area that they're free to pollute and test weapons on. So yeah, just look at this place. It's really stark, isn't it? The thick haze out on the horizon, it just looks very polluted all around. Yet, as you'll see throughout this video, like many other planets, it's an absolute joy and pleasure to fly around. Now, I'm sure you won't have failed to have noticed the head tracking that's going on here, and this really does add to the joy of flying around. As I turn my head, the camera in game actually follows my head, tracks the position of the camera, allowing me to see off to the left or off to the right, or indeed any direction. The Tobii Eye Tracker does actually have 6 degrees of motion behind it, 6 degrees of freedom, meaning that I could also lean forward, backwards, sideways, and even tilt my head, and the camera in the game will accommodate accordingly. The device itself is super easy to use. Just attach it to the bottom of the monitor with a provided mount. The device itself can then be calibrated through the Tobii Experience software. And once you've done that, you're all good to go. Everything's pretty much straightforward. Any game that supports it, and there are quite a lot at this point. I do believe there's a library of over 170 games that have support for the Tobii Eye Tracker 5. Now, the planets within Star Citizen don't exist within isolation. Many of them have moons orbiting them. Here's a great example. This one is Aberdeen. And the atmosphere of this world makes Hurston look like a paradise by comparison. Absolutely thick here is the atmosphere, Well, it's not just thick, but it's also poisonous. It's constructed or composed primarily of sulfurous gas. And that means the visibility here is a lot lower than you may find elsewhere. Nonetheless, there are bot bases and other locations dotted around that you're free to explore, and also you'll no doubt get sent here for a variety of different missions. Pollution, though, doesn't just take the form of what takes place in the atmosphere, it can also affect the surface of a world, as we see in the world of ArcCorp here, otherwise known as Stanton 3. It's owned by the ArcCorp Corporation, and what they've done here is pretty obvious even from space. They've completely covered the entire surface with cities and other industrialized and commercial zones. For me, this makes ArcCorp one of the most interesting planets to fly over, largely because, yes, you can fly right down into these city blocks and even, as you'll see slightly further into the video, land on top of them. There's a whole variety of different landing pads here, some of them you can see right there. And that means, yeah, you can leave your ship and walk around on the top of these buildings. Now, when it comes to the Tobii eye tracker, it's not just about head tracking. Of course, there's also eye tracking in there as well. In fact, Tobii and Star Citizen have some very impressive integration between them. The options screen has a load of settings that we can change for this, and that will include things such as the dead zone and the sensitivity, but also whether you want the Tobii eye tracker and how you want it to work when you're walking around. Whether you want it to work in the cockpit, or whether you want it to work when sitting down, and so on. You can customize these very specifically and in great detail. And that means you can set it up to suit your own desires and your own needs, pretty much making it entirely customizable really when it comes to Star Citizen. And in case you're wondering, it does work if you use glasses. I wear glasses myself 24/7, so well, perhaps not 24/7, I don't wear them when I go to sleep, but yeah, you know what I mean. It does work with glasses, and it also works in low light as well, so you don't need to have the room fully illuminated or have bright light in the room. It works under all manner of different conditions. Okay, at this point, I decided I'd want to land on one of these rooftops. You saw there was a whole load of landing pads there. Fortunately, because these aren't active gameplay environments, you don't need to actually request landing permission to land here. So just choose a landing area and get down on that rooftop. You can then leave your ship and have a walk around. Now tell me another game that lets you do this. I don't think there's many. I don't really think there's any of this sort of scope or this sort of scale. And certainly not with this quality of visuals. Moving on to some rather more pleasant worlds that are somewhat less polluted, we come to this ice moon. Now the moon is known as Lyria or Lyria. I'm not entirely sure how this one is pronounced, but it's very much an ice ball. Very, very cold here. Although, you know, it is beautiful in its own way, but for me, the ice planet that really stands out, the cold world that really stands out, is of course Microtech. Now Microtech, in my eyes at least, is vastly visually superior than the previous moon. Just look at these mountains here. This is just really, really impressive to me. And of course, there's parts of greenery all around Microtech. In fact, if you find the right locations, there's some seriously lush greenery and really, really nice forests. Now, there's another thing I wanted to talk to you about with the Tobii eye tracker, and that is the eye tracking. And to illustrate how that works, we've got the Tobii Ghost software active here. Now, what this is showing is the little orb, the little bubble you can see on the screen, is ghosting my eyesight. So what I'm looking at, you can actually see, and this highlights just how the eye tracker tracks your eyes. This in turn does have an effect in the game, because it lets the game be aware of the things you're looking at, and the camera will then move to accommodate that in turn. And if, like me, you happen to be a YouTuber or maybe even a streamer, you can actually use this so you can basically engage with the audience. The audience would be able to see what you're looking at in the game. And there are some pretty nice use cases that you might find that handy. So when it comes to planets in Star Citizen, there was none that I was more excited to see than the world of Bloom. This is in the newly released star system of Pyro, that's in the Star Citizen 4.0 update. This is available if you do have access to the game and exists as a separate server to the main 3.23 patch. So yeah, new system here, a whole range of new planets, and Bloom is absolutely gorgeous. Probably one of the best planets I've ever seen in a video game. And the reason I really like this world is because there's a real contrast between starkness and beauty. Some of it just looks so dead, whilst other parts of it look so alive. And it's not even as though these different biomes exist on opposite ends of the planet, they can be very close together. Bloom then is a very, very interesting world. So yeah, there's a bit of a look at Star Citizen, some of the gorgeous worlds and planets that exist around it, but primarily, really, why I feel the Tobii Eye Tracker 5 really does add immensely to the immersion when exploring. The fact is, when it comes to Star Citizen, Elite Dangerous and Microsoft Flight Simulator, I literally never played them without the Tobii Eye Tracker. And the same has been true ever since 2016. It just adds so much in, and I'd be at a loss without it. But anyway, thanks for watching this video all the way through. There are some links in the video description, so do check them out if you're interested in finding out more about the Tobii Eye Tracker and would like to get that 15% discount. Thanks for watching, do take care, and I'll catch you next time.